Okay, let's use mesh analysis to write equations from which we can find this voltage across the 3 ohm resistor V. First, we want to identify our mesh loops. I'm going to kill all the sources, so this voltage source becomes a short circuit. There's a resistor here. I'm not going to bother to label its value because it doesn't matter at this stage. This current source becomes an open circuit. This is a 1 ohm resistor, and there's this 3 ohm resistor here, another resistor here, and finally this other voltage source also becomes a short circuit. Now we're left with two enclosed non-overlapping areas. One that goes all around this outer section of resistors here and then through this 3 ohm resistor, the other this rightmost loop here. So my first mesh current is going to start here, go up through this 1 ohm resistor, come around and back to its origin. That'll be I1, and I2 will just go around this right loop. Now I need to choose a constrained loop that accounts for the current through this 2 amp current source. The only restriction on that constrained loop is that it has to be 2 amps and it has to pass through this current source. I'm going to make it go through this little loop up here. If it's 2 amps in this direction, that takes care of this. Now I can start writing my equations. KVL around loop 1. If I start down here at the lower left-hand corner, it's negative 12 volts plus 3 ohms times whatever current is going through that. The only current is the mesh current I1 plus, moving on to this 1 ohm resistor, 1 ohm times I1 is going through that resistor, and the 2 amp constrained loop is going through that resistor as well, but it's in the opposite direction, so it's got a negative contribution. Plus, now the contribution from the 3 ohm resistor, 3 ohms times I1 minus I2 is equal to 0. Notice that I'm not caring about the voltage V that I'm ultimately trying to find. I'm only working with the mesh loops when I'm writing KVL. So KVL loop 2, starting down at this lower left-hand corner, 3 ohms times I2 minus I1 now, plus 6 ohms times I2 is the only mesh current going through that resistor, plus 6 volts is equal to 0. Now finally I'll worry about what I'm actually trying to find, which is the voltage V. The polarity of voltage V is given. The upper terminal of the 3 ohm resistor is assumed to be at the higher voltage than the lower terminal. I1's entering this upper terminal, I2 is entering this lower terminal, so I1 will be a positive contribution, I2 will be a negative contribution. So V is going to be equal to 3 ohms times I1 minus I2, and we're done.